Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're hosting some new DEPT Talks live. I am your host for today, Bruce. Why are we doing this? Well, we have seen that a lot of companies tend to struggle with the whole COVID crisis, or how do they have to communicate during this crisis? Do they have to communicate at all, or do they have to be bright? Do they have to be somber? Well, that's something I'm helping you with today. This is part of a larger program. We're doing these kind of talks every week on Friday at 2. And today it's solely about social media. Why am I hosting this? Being a young-looking guy, I'm almost turning 30 later this year, so I'm older than I look. But I am here today because I have worked for numerous brands throughout my career. I did social media for a lot of brands that are more known in the Netherlands. However, there are also brands out there that operate international that I also helped with their social media. Now, why are we here discussing this today? We see three things. First of all, like I told you, brands are struggling how to deal with this. You see two reactions. Either brands stop communicating at all, they suddenly disappear from the planet, or they go full on in crisis mode and say, this is Armageddon, we have to get everybody on board and we're all gonna die. And most of the brands are somewhere in between, and I'd like to help those brands, because it's okay sometimes to do crisis communications and all. It's sometimes good to be quiet and to not communicate anything at all. But there's a whole world in between there. The second thing we see is that people tend to use more social media nowadays. This is a figure for Italy alone. We see an increase of 70% of usage of social media. This is specifically for the Facebook platforms. So think WhatsApp, think Instagram, think Facebook. There's this huge surge of people spending time on social media. And it's quite easy to explain why, because all of a sudden, lots of people are at home, they are doing nothing, so it's very easy to just grab your phone and swipe away. As a result, and that's the third thing we're seeing, the CPMs, the cost to reach 1,000 people is really, really, really low right now. You can reach 1,000 people for €1 in the Netherlands. It's about 80 cents in Germany, 60 euro cents in the UK, and about €1 in France as well. I have to note this will change once you set up your campaign. However, these numbers are low. We normally see numbers ranging between €5 and €15 as a normal range. So this is a very special situation. So 3 things. Brands don't know how to act. People are on social, and social is hella cheap. So this is something of an opportunity, and that's why I'm talking here to you today about these opportunities. Now you are probably watching with the whole idea of like, yay, I have to spend only 15 minutes, 20 minutes listening to that guy, then I can ask some questions, and then I know exactly what to do. Well, no. Nobody knows exactly what to do. Even if they are live streaming and have glasses and have a really smart look, they don't exactly know what to do. However, I'm going to try to help you out a little bit to find your way on how to deal with this on social media. We have a 3-part program. First of all, I want to talk to you about what social is, how we at brand and advertising with the social team see social and how you should act as a brand on social media. Then I'm going to dive into some do's and don'ts with examples. And at the end, we're going to have a Q&A. During my talk, feel free to raise your hand. I can see you, but probably if it floats your boat, do it. I don't care. However, do leave a comment, which is somewhere, I think, there. People are monitoring the questions, and we will try to answer them as good as we can at the end of this session. So without further ado, I'm gonna take the stage from what is probably the only neat and tidy corner of my living room right now. You don't see that part, and I'm very happy with that. Without further ado, I'm going to talk about what does social actually mean. Most of the times when people hear these questions, they're like, yeah, it's easy. I know what social is. This is social. It's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's LinkedIn. Maybe you're an early adapter and you already make a TikTok. Shout out to Renee for that one. But this isn't social. You're wrong. Social is more than just platforms. That's what people think. They immediately think about Facebook. The reality is more like this. Well, I blurred some parts away and I'm not going to read it aloud because I know the DEPT marketing team is watching this as well. However, this was one of the comments I got on, I think, one of the very first posts I made. It got approved by the client. They liked it. And then we put it online and people were like, you. They also told it in a more nice way, but this is in essence what happened. Nobody wanted to see my stupid ad and they told me to get off Instagram. And that was also like a big, well, I would say somewhat of a warning, like we are here to entertain the people a little bit. We are asking them to spend the time with us. We need to have something to offer to them because social media isn't about talking to people. Sometimes as brands, we are so caught up in the story we want to tell or the product that we want to sell, and we tend to forget like what do people want to hear. And social is way more about getting feedback on what you show on your feed. It's about being ignored if they don't like it. It's so easy to just swipe a post away, to go to the next story, or even to click skip ad, which is probably the most popular button on the internet. It's very easy for people to not see your ad. So we really have to bring something to the table. Social is really talking with people instead of against people. As a team, as the DEPT social team at Brand and Advertising in the Netherlands, this is our motto. We make ads you could skip, but you don't. At least that's what we try to. We are trying to give you something worthwhile. And that's where it gets important for this Corona crisis, because everyone's world has changed. So whenever you are creating a new message right now, think about a close friend of yours, someone in your inner circle, someone you actually really like, and then think about the message you just created and ask yourself the question, would you also say this to a friend? And that brings me to these social do's and don'ts, because that's the most important question to keep in mind, and it will help you explain why these do's are do's and don'ts are don'ts. Now, before we go to look into all kinds of do's and don'ts, first we need to reflect on what we're already doing. Please don't continue what you're doing right now. We can't allow ourselves to act as if nothing has happened. Like I told you, the world has changed and it changes every day. An hour ago, I got a notification that Boris Johnson himself has the coronavirus. These kind of news notifications are daily now, and it's a weird world. So we have to stay sharp, and we just can't allow our campaigns to continue on and on and on as they were running. So let me give you an example of a well-known brand that might be top of mind right now. I'm talking, of course, about Corona. They actually try to launch a new product right now. This is an ad from the end of February, and to me, this feels like this is art. I cannot imagine that people at the Corona were looking at this ad at a time when the coronavirus was already quite big in China. I was about to say went viral, but let's keep it classy here. I cannot imagine that they didn't have a meeting like, hey guys, should we do this? And one person said, yeah, because we invested a lot of money in this campaign, so we need to push it. And it went live with this copy, and I mean, it's beautiful, but please don't do this. They could have seen this coming. Luckily, as a brand, you can learn. Everything we do now on social is digital. So what you can publish, you can also unpublish. That's the nice thing of working digital. So of course, Corona has learned from their mistakes, but they didn't. This post, you can't make this up. This post is live right now. So imagine yourself sitting in front of your television. You have just heard the leader of your country say, people, please, whatever you do, stay inside if you can. Stay at a social distance of 1.5 meters. We are affecting each other in this crisis. So please keep that distance. And then this is still live on the Twitter account of Corona USA. The perfect view is a crew of friends. This is totally not social distancing. So I'm gonna look directly in the camera now. I surely hope that amongst all debtors and clients, there's also someone there who knows someone at Corona. Please, guys, think again about this message, because this is not the way to go if you want to continue with your brand. So my advice would be, do check your messaging daily. And this is something not only for things you have created today, but if you are launching a Facebook campaign that runs for 1 or 2 weeks, keep in mind that the situations keep on changing. This also happened, for example, this is an ad by KFC, and it might be quite small for you guys here. I have no clue where this box, my presentation box is. It says it's finger licking good, and you see people actually licking their fingers. This was a new campaign by KFC, and it was launched recently. But unfortunately, it wasn't the best timing, because soon after we got all these messages about how we should wash our hands, how we should not touch our faces. And here we have someone licking their fingers. And luckily, unlike Corona, they pulled back this campaign. And you know that must have hurt. These kind of campaigns are campaigns that people have been working on for months, for ages. They have been refined, they have been tweaked, but you have to cancel it. The world is different now. We have to adjust to this new world. So when you have a new campaign and you are going to run it, let's say for the coming 2 weeks, then please do plan for the worst case scenario. So if your copy is fully written on a situation where people can still go outside, maybe in 2 weeks there is a lockdown in your country. It differs per country, but first we saw in China that there was a lockdown. Then it came to Italy, there came a lockdown. Now in the Netherlands, we don't have a lockdown yet, but we are progressing when it comes to measures that are being taken. The USA, we see a rapid incline in Corona cases there. So please plan ahead with these kind of things. Also, staying safe doesn't mean that you can't communicate at all, but please be smart about it. We know you can do it. A different don't, which I really would like to emphasize, is please don't force relevancy. Now that a lot of brands are suddenly see their market disappear, maybe their product is meant to be used outside, or you only sell in brick and mortar shops. Sometimes brands try to make themselves relevant by tying Corona to the brand. And this is, again, something I would like to advise you not to do. I'm going to give you an example. We are Dutch. I mean, I have my tulips here. It doesn't get more Dutch than this. And we Dutch love our bikes. So when you have this ad running on Facebook and it's still there, about grabbing your bike, don't hoard and grab a bike, it feels a bit fishy. It's a bit off. I mean, hoarding has nothing to do with grabbing the bike. That's a first. Secondly, our government is telling us all to stay at home whenever we can, so don't go outside if you don't have to. And here you are creating a message about hoarding that's unrelated and to go outside and grab your bike. I get it. There is a sense of truth in this message because we are allowed to go outside and it's healthy to grab a bike and you can do it alone in nature or whatever. But please, don't involve the hamstring. I mean, it's silly. Even worse, it gets even worse if you build your entire campaign about avoiding messes and being prepared and giving a discount on your bikes. I mean, this makes you feel like a cheap salesman. It feels as if you are trying to profit of this crisis and you don't want to be that brand. I mean, even a bike company can be clever with what they communicate, how they communicate it, and where they communicate it. So please, instead of doing this, adapt and find new opportunities. And luckily, actually, this bike company launched their own online store last week because of the corona crisis, and you can now order a bike, have a test ride at your home, and then return it if you want to. And I think that's a really great first step to see how the world has changed. Unfortunately, they still have this stupid campaign running, and I would really advise against this. And instead, as a brand, think about other ways to be relevant. For example, with a bike company, if people have a flat tire and they normally would go to your service station, maybe provide them with the right tools to do easy fixes themselves at home. Provide them with tutorials, maybe have a live Q&A or create distant servicing through live feeds or something. There are so much technical possibilities out there, so use them. I'm going to the next thing I see brands do, and this one, I think it's quite an important one. Please, as a brand, don't add to the drama. You don't need to. I mean, there are brands that are in the heat right now. For example, I think that has a different meaning in English. Let's forget it. There are brands that really have to cope with this situation. So, for example, airlines really have to go full-on crisis communications with their social media platforms. And that's a good thing, and they are trying to help, so it's okay there. However, most of the brands have nothing to do with Corona. They only feel the effects of Corona indirectly in sales or whatever, but it's not tied to their product. So let me give you an example to be a bit more clear. This is a message I see a lot of brands create, like, hey, stay safe, keep distance. We're going to distract you through these rough times. And by saying we'd like to distract you, you are doing the total opposite. I mean, it's not up to you as a brand to tell this message. It's okay to think about these kind of things, but these are the messages that should be spread by the government or by institutions, but not by any brand out there. Why? Because we are getting so much negative input nowadays, and people are at home and all they get is this negative input. So please don't add to it, because you're only adding to the negativity, where you could better think of a way you can actually add something to someone's day. This is only making things worse, probably. So please do provide. Oh, this is totally one bridge. However, as a brand, if you care, do provide evidence that you actually really care and that you are adding to someone's day, because you can. Many, many brands can, but you have to be smart about it. We see big brands giving it a go with these new social distance logos. Personally, I don't feel like this is really caring. This, to me, and this is my opinion, this feels really cheap because it's all about your branding. I don't think it will help anyone keep their social distance. And also, there is not really proof because many of these companies are still trying to operate in some way. I think, for example, this stunt by Burger King is way better. Why? Because it's at the restaurant that is closed. They are not profiting right now to keep you safe. And instead of having home of the Whopper on the wall, they just say, stay home and we'll be back. And I think that's really strong because you actually see Burger King being closed. Even better, if you go one step further, is this example by Anheuser-Busch, mostly known for their Budweiser beer. They actually used their network to create a supply chain of hand sanitizer. And this is helping in a really, really smart way. This is stepping up your game. It's not thinking about your own profits. It's not thinking about your own gains on a daily basis. It's about really helping the community, as there is this huge demand for hand sanitizer. And I think this is probably really, really hard to realize in these times of not being able to work together in one room. So big props to this. However, not every brand has this whole supply chain that they can change. Not every brand has this amount of relevancy within this corona crisis, but there are other ways to add. For example, by lightening the mood. I think a lot of brands feel those indirect effects of corona, and it's okay to basically respond on that. Lots of brands try to connect with real people on social media. So if the real world out there is all about corona right now and people sitting at home and being at home with the kids, having to work from home, then we are okay. It's okay to talk about that. That's the real life right now. We can't ignore it. So I really like this example by Suit Supply, a suit company. This is all about working from home, and luckily for you guys, and I think you should feel special. I am actually wearing pants today, even though I don't have to. So please feel special. I think this is smart advertising. It's just grabbing a real situation, people working at home, and making a joke about how you sell suits. Another example is one from our social team, co-created with bol.com, one of the biggest e-commerce websites in the Netherlands. Well, suddenly your gaming gear is no longer just for gaming, it's also for meetings, or for meetings when you're actually gaming during your work times, which I am totally not doing management. I'm really working really hard. Really. I totally did not make a Instagram page about the pigeon on my balcony that's here every day. Nope. But this is just, it's okay to have some humor in your communication if it fits your brand. And I think this is the most important thing. If you would talk to your friends, you would make jokes. If you would talk to friends that are in need, you would help. So please do help your audience as if they are your friends, because there are like lots of opportunities out there, and they might not be instantly clear what these opportunities are, but I'm going to give you two examples which I think are really nailing it. These go beyond social. They are supported by social, but it's bigger than that. For example, this was created by the brand and advertising team. I had nothing to do with this, but I love it. Bol.com provides free books for everyone out there, so that, for example, the kids can read while the parents are working, and finally they can shut up for 1 hour and you can finally finish that important email without being interrupted. Gotta love kids. As you can tell, I'm not a parent. Or, and this is a more recent example, only yesterday evening, I again had nothing to do with this, but it's really great work by our brand and advertising team. Yesterday, Live Eat was... works better in Dutch, was Live Aid was organized. And this was a live stream through Twitch, in which famous Dutch people would perform. They would sing, they would tell stories, they would make jokes, and they would entertain you while everybody in the Netherlands could join in and have dinner while seeing the show. During the entire show, it was promoted to donate to the food bank, and lots of money was gathered for the food bank, who are in kind of a struggle right now, because people are hoarding and there's nothing left for the food bank anymore. I think this is really clever advertising. This was a project done with Honig, which is all about dinner and eating together in the evening. So think beyond your brand and think, how can you help? Now, that's it for me. I hope this helps you to some extent. Then I would like to go to the Q&A and maybe answer some questions. I'll try my best to help you. If you have a really difficult question, I'll just quickly unplug this thing and blame my internet. But let's try for now. I'll keep the do's and don'ts on the screen in the meantime while I switch to the questions. All right. So I have a question here by Alex Page. Gucci donated a bunch of money for the cause. Do you think it's a good strategy? Even if they are a fashion brand, I think it helps. I'm not sure which cause you're talking about. I would always try to find a cause that's somehow related to your brand. So for Gucci, I know very little fashion, but I'm sure they are able to help some way. I think it's definitely a good strategy. In these times, it's not about sales. It's more about exposing your brand out there, and you don't want to come across as a sleazy salesman. And there is room, there's basically a need to help. So yes, definitely help. If you can, do it. It's not only helping, but it's also really showing that your brand is actually worth something and that you have principles you stand for. So yes, please keep on doing that. I have a question by Sanne Groen here. Bruce, would you say it's the perfect time for startup companies to invest a large part of the capital in their social media strategy / the department over other departments? Well, I wouldn't say, I have no clue about those other departments, but yes, given that CPMs are like really low and you can reach a lot of people, and there is a lot of attention for messages on social media right now, yes, I think it's a very solid strategy to start investing in your social media campaign. However, I work in social media, so hey, the thing is, I would be clever about it. Because if your product is digital, yes, go for it. If you are selling a product in brick and mortar stores, then you have to be clever. Do not say, people go to the store and buy our product, because then we are actually going against guidelines as being spread by the government. So then you will probably look a bit stupid. I hope that answers your question. René Becker asks, what is your opinion about the HEMA social campaign, 15 tompoesen distance? Well, I guess I have to explain that one. We have this puff pastry, it's sugary goodness. I can't explain it otherwise. And they're like this big, and they are. There's one Dutch company, HEMA, who sells them, and they wanted to tell the message to keep 1.5 meters distance in their stores, which they translated to 15 tompoesens in a row. I think it's a clever way to tell a very serious message, because the 1.5 meters is very important, especially in their stores and also for their employees. By adding the extra layer of the tompoesen, which I really want to buy right now, by the way, I think you grab a lot more attention. Whereas with the normal 1.5 meters, people will probably be like, yeah, we know. So yes, it's very good. However, I would try to find a balance that not every company now should grab their product and put them in a row and say, keep this as a distance because the joke has been made. They were very clever. They were quite early. And I think we are past 1.5 meters right now. I have another question by Federica Montella. What social media platforms do you think are most suited for COVID-19 communications? This depends really on your audience. I'm not sure what you are selling, what your target audience is, how you can help them. For example, I can imagine in a world where you really want to help people with something in their environment, then maybe a live Q&A through Instagram could help, where you could invite a person into the live stream and help them along while they are, I don't know, fixing their computer or whatever. Maybe if you have a bit more of an older target audience, and this sounds really stupid, but more the Facebook parents audience, I'm sorry, people, then you should totally stick to Facebook. I mean, it offers all kinds of ways to communicate. I don't think there is one single platform that really stands out. It's more about where is your target audience and how can you really help them and find the best platform that suits both. We see, for example, that Twitter is basically a great live stream, whereas Twitch, for example, yesterday was the platform for a big dining event. So be smart about it. I have a question by Huda. Hi, Huda. Long time no see, by the way. She's my colleague. Bruce, what is your advice to brands that are launching new products nowadays? How not to be perceived as opportunistic? Well, that's a very good question, and I actually had to deal with this question as well. I recently saw that a new product was being launched that was a tanning product, a fake tan product, and to me, I get that you have worked a lot of time to really prepare everything for this launch, but I would reconsider those kind of things. There is probably it's very likely that people won't use that particular product, so maybe you have to cancel certain products and emphasize different products that might be relevant nowadays still. I think it's still doable to launch a new product. It's just, again, don't communicate people to come to the stores, rather buy online. Don't have messages like, yeah, this product is the best to hang out with your friends, like Corona did. That's just not very smart. You can also make a joke like Suit Supply did or Bol.com did, if it suits your product, and just don't just grab a insight that's really relevant right now. However, it's really dependent on the product and your target audience. So there's no one clear answer to this question. And if anyone is watching out there with the same question, and we as DEPT are working for you, I would really advise to contact DEPTsters and ask them for their opinion or advice, because we are really happy to help. I hope this somehow helps. I need to drink some water, I noticed. Geez, guys, I do all the talking. Where are you guys at? All right. I have Judith Woost here. Special dues for supermarkets related to the virus. Well, I think like supermarkets are a bit of in the crisis situation right now. I don't think this is the time to be funny. I think this is the time to really think about your employees first and think about their safety, and try to communicate that within the supermarkets, you have to keep your distance because their safety is in the line as well. I think there is still space to somehow tie your message to things that happen in real life right now. I think for example, that you can make you can talk about how everybody is hoarding toilet paper if you do it in a mindful way. There is definitely space. Let's keep it at that. It's a very difficult question because supermarkets is one of those areas where, well, they are like battling right now with all the people out there, and I think they're going through rough times and very profitable times at the same time. So props to them. All right, I have here a final question by Bitfood. Hi Bruce, how can the food service like restaurants keep their audience involved on social media while the restaurant is closed? That's a very good question. I think that, for example, the Honig example is a very good one in this sense. You could organize something like this, or maybe you could live stream from restaurants, or we have seen restaurants that all of a sudden start with takeaway. Whatever you try, it's going to be a hard time for restaurants, and I hope, and I'm very happy that I'm not in their position. I think we should have a lot of respect for people that have restaurants and are trying to cope with this situation. But even they can be creative and try to come up with new ways of involving people. For example, live dinners, or trying to cook for the elderly who are even more stuck in social isolation. Maybe you can go to an elder's home and give them a top-notch 5-star restaurant. Is that a thing? 5-star restaurant, 1-star restaurant dinner, and promote how you still want to work for those people and add to their lives. Because in the end, it will probably benefit in the way you have promoted your brand. It kept you working, it kept you active, and it's just a very nice thing to do. So I think that will get recognition anyways. So yeah, be clever. There's no, as I mentioned before, there is no one clear answer to anyone's situation, but there are definitely opportunities out there. And given that this was the last question, I really want to hand that over to you guys. Please think about how you can get creative. I know it's hard and probably sales will decline, and it's gonna be a rough time. But in these times, beautiful things can still exist and come to life that would never happen before. So I hope you can find those little moments, those ideas, and turn them into reality. With that being said, I'm going to chuck the rest of my glass of water because my voice is disappearing really quick. I hope it helped. If you have any further questions, reach out to the people at DEPT or contact me via LinkedIn or whatever, and maybe we can have a nice chat and see what works for you. Thank you so much for your attention. Goodbye, guys.